What's up, everybody? Welcome to True Coach TV. I'm your host, Sam Pogue. I'm sitting here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, also known as my apartment, getting to sit down with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. James Fitzgerald, founder of OPEX and Big Dogs, and really, in my opinion, someone who's shaped the world of remote coaching from the very beginning. And we're now in a spot where that terminology just became synonymous with the rest of the fitness world, and what consumers are understanding is how they digest fitness. And coaches are now scrambling to the online space. And I wanted to sit down with a guy who's been doing it for years and has really shaped the way this experience should look, and really talk about how we as coaches can take this information and help us deliver a better experience to our clients, and in turn, have the business that we need to be successful and survive this situation. So James, thank you so much for making time. I know you're doing a million of these, but appreciate your consistent willingness to give back to the industry and share your knowledge.
Yeah, of course. I won't be able to match your energy, but I'm up for a discussion on remote coaching.
Oh, was that not in the contract? I thought everybody had to match me.
I got a little anxious. I'm not going to lie to you as soon as you did the opener.
Tell us about, you've been in this game for a long time now, and remote coaching has gone through a really, probably some different iterations of how people have understood it.
Yeah.
Where did it start? And then where is it now at, where it's now got the mass media that people see it as now?
Yeah. Well, in the mid 90s, it started with, indirectly, it wasn't personalized, but with the propagation of fitness information through forums, Melsif Forum, T Nation, Muscle Media 2000, kind of underground, like what the hell is happening in fitness throughout the world, right? Where you had these mentors in fitness at the time who are now at their age, like 40, 50, 60, who had seen this initial 70 to 90 weird aerobic strength thing happening. And now they saw this intersection of a higher amount of science and technology coming on. So the sharing of all that information went to these really slow websites that were sent out, let's call it non-personalized sharing of information of fitness. Mm-hmm. So the learning curve in what fitness was, to back up on pre and remote coaching, from the mid 90s till 2000 was a steep, I would say it's almost larger than the learning curve today, simply because we had to try to download now 50 different versions of how fitness was delivered in concepts. You can imagine that, right? Otherwise, you were in your little bubble in Louisiana in your university. You're like, oh, this is fitness, And now you get online, it's like, holy shit. So after that, the early 2000s, I was part of that group who participated in the sharing of this information and trying to work with clients that were not in geography with me, right? In Calgary at the time. So this means that I was getting designs from Dave Tate, Charles Staley, Charles Poliquin, Paul Check, Verstegen, like all those guys who were just like sending out this vision of what fitness was. I was their clients in that online setting. So I was actually initially an online client of this email send out that you couldn't wait for it to show up in your box, right? It's like, oh my God, and if there was like a letter signed, that was like, it was fitness orgasm basically.
Yeah.
And we take that for granted today. It shows up in True Coach, right? And people are like, oh yeah, where's my program? I'm like, man, back that day, if it came by a pigeon, I would rub the pigeon for 20 minutes because they sent me Charles Staley's program. I digress, but I'm preempting that story to show you the value that was inside of that piece of information for me felt really important, right? So anyone could pull something from that around value and personalization. It also lets everyone know, why am I so adamant around individualizing programs, right? You now know that's one of the stories, besides being burnt in a bunch of other areas, that's one of the stories why I find it so much value in the coach.
Yes.
Now, when that starts to move forward into my, let's call it brand, it rose tremendously because of my success in CrossFit, which was, I'm grateful for it. It allowed me to open up my eyes to a whole audience that was like, dude, I'm not in Calgary, but I need this information, like pronto. So 2005, 6, 7, I was constantly doing this snail email send back and forth with clients, didn't know what to charge, and was just going through that process. And I'm being very quick here now. You know, you can imagine all the iterations of that, coaching coaches to do this, coaching systems to do this. You know, so if you follow the spider web, it goes back to that 2006 moment where I was sending out a bunch of different online programs, and I learned a shit ton of mistakes based upon that. And now we come to today, 2020, where there's probably 1,000 new coaches per couple of weeks now, due to the current phase, you know, that are quote unquote online, right? And have the tech savviness and possibly the program design etiquette to like kill whatever I had in place in terms of what was seen as my design. No, honestly, right? Okay. But I mentioned that because back then there was maybe 5, right? And now there's tens of thousands in terms of what's happening every couple of months for that world. And I'll just stop there because it's a little historical context of what brings us to today.
I love it. Would you expand just really quickly for the person who may never have heard that term, and I love it, program etiquette and what that means? And I'm sure that has a story based on the failures and mistakes that you made along the way. But what does program etiquette mean?
Yeah, well, you have to remember that I was solely, I was an early adopter in the strength and conditioning profession too, right? So what was deeply embedded in me from the start was real human relationships, right? So now as I went online, I still had a very robust 3 or 4 different style, group fitness, PT model style, PT ID design style, like the current OPEX, aka OPEX gym style today. I had that going on the same time I was doing this online thing. So what you learn from that is all the intricacies between being in person and really feeling someone, like really feeling someone. Like there's stuff that went on in my office in Calgary in a 30 or 60 minute consult that I say I learned more about life with in-person clients, right? My own life, like how to live the largest life possible. I get a little choked up based upon it because there's so much depth to those stories that it was never possible to duplicate in an online setting. It was never possible to duplicate. But what I learned from that and built from it was what I'm calling this etiquette of what are you calling a relationship? What are you calling the relationship? So it doesn't hold constraints of like what one is and what one isn't, but you better fucking ask the question like, is this really a relationship, right? And what's my definition of a relationship? And it was obvious to me because like I was doing programs and then I'd sit down with someone who was like, James, my fucking life is in ruins and I need to speak to you, right? So just think about that, right? You don't have the opportunity online to like text back and forth through True Coach about that example. So etiquette is the fundamental questioning around what is a relationship. And then if you dig there, you'll figure out what's inside of that. There's attributes of empathy, attentiveness, authenticity, vulnerability, etc. That's inside of the etiquette of that relationship. And that's where I learned it, was I was able to see online and in person. And that's what I mean today. If that etiquette is in place, right, the coach's mantras of that, you should be, we'll get to that. You should be good in online. But we need to define, of course, what success is and
Is there a learning curve between, obviously we've talked about this extensively before, that getting your reps in an in-person setting as a coach is a process that we all need to go through. And I think you would agree with the fact that like, you really can't remote coach well or be good at it if you haven't gotten your reps in person, right? Like you're good. You're just not going to know how to coach a kettlebell swing if you haven't seen it done in person, right? Like,
well, there's argument to that. And the argument is that it's because I can't turn my back on the fact that I've seen coaches start relatively online and be really fucking good coaches, determining whatever your definition is of success. I would agree with you that there's some things because I've heard other people talk about that, right? It's like, if you want to be an online coach, be in person for 5 years. I was like, yeah, that philosophically sounds right, but it's actually not true. Like, there's thousands of examples where that's not true, as defined by what is a great relationship. And what you're talking about is, yes, somehow some people get tripped up because they don't know the knowledge and language around execution. But my argument to that is, like, that's an in-person relationship issue. That's not an online relationship issue. Meaning, if you need to coach someone on technique online, you're going after the wrong fucking audience. You know what I mean? Like, this is the way it is. So I think we should change it up and say, in that definition, there's a client and a coach in that conversation. So, can you be online with a low competence group from the get-go without experience in person? Not a fucking chance. Not a fucking chance. Can you start up tomorrow through True Coach with great principles from OPEX and fucking crush it out there in fitness? I'm telling you, you can. I'm telling you, you can, because the audience dictates what goes into that program and the relationship that's inside of that.
Now let's talk about what is a remote relationship, and how is that different than an interpersonal relationship?
Well, I can give you a system of it that kind of looks like how we do it. And then, you may have some more questions to feed off from that. So there has to be one time a month where you get a eye-to-eye, this thing, sit down, real, not a green room surfing background or Costa Rica background, but this real thing here, right? So, like, I'm not sure if you felt something when I was getting a little choked up, right? That will not happen if we don't see one another, right? So one time a month, you have to have this in place, right? Where you're talking to someone around, what was the real reason why we got together? Let's review, why are we really doing this, right? Let's go back to the big picture whys. Tell me something that's been successful in some of the interventions we've had over the past little while. Tell me some of the challenges you're having, etc. That's wrapped up in what I would argue should be a 60-minute consult once a month. This is a big thing, okay? Secondly, there's a level of where True Coach comes in, where you're having daily and weekly check-ins of that relationship. Daily check-ins to be like, oh, I saw that you did your workout and we need a little fix of that. Weekly check-ins is the weekly design send-out, or what we're having in system, a weekly design send-out, where you're probably having a little bit of messaging, a little bit of back and forth on what's to come, how it fits into the overall macro plan, etc. So big consult once a month, macro style stuff once a week, and then micro shit daily as like check-ins, right? And I would hope that entire relationship, minus whatever the technology used for monthly consults, are inside a True Coach. That's not just a brand sponsor conversation there. There's no other place on the planet that's better than doing it inside of there. Let's be honest, right? No, but honestly, let's be honest. There's no other fucking place that you can do that with.
Totally.
So you do that micro, macro, and then monthly thing. And that's what the relationship should look like. Now, how you get to that, the cost of it, what's inside of it, the technical aspects of the coaching, behavior, exercise, nutrition, that's more complex, but I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. And I hear someone sitting here saying, well, like, man, that feels so robotic, like to have such a time-specific thing to deliver an experience, to give this, because they're used to doing personal training where I'm getting like one-on-one. Hey, how you doing, James? I get to see that you walk in kind of tired. But like, I know you, I've been to CCP, like, you're not saying restrict on quality at all, or restrict on the amount of effort you're putting into the program. It may not have taken 9 hours to do it, but like, you should be getting great intake forms. You should be getting great dialogue and building that relationship through your process of onboarding, so that way you're naturally building in that rhythm. Talk to us about how you've been able to build such a high quality experience through CCP and Big Dogs and OPEX into the remote experience, to where people who do you guys' when they're working with you, like, that doesn't sound like as robotic as most people think remote coaching is. Like, oh, I get an email once a week, I get this once a week. It's like, it's a very personalized thing.
Yeah. Well, philosophically, we can squeeze that one out, because we are talking about two different things. No, honestly, right? Like, online is not the same as in person, right? I need to clearly identify that, right?
100%.
But when you're talking about online, to your question, if it seems robotic, that's your perception, not yours, right? But that's the person's perception. That's not mine. And we haven't even talked about our definition of success. So just take this brain stretch. You think it's robotic, but you have 96% retention and 10K net a month growth. So like, what's your definition of success, right? It's like, oh, I'm robotic. Yeah, but you're fucking killing it and you're giving people a great service. Do you see my point? So what can be robotic, I see as consistent and disciplined, right? So how to be success in that area which seemingly looks robotic, you can't be inconsistent, right? You have to be systemized. You have to have the process I was just talking about, right? You got to have an intake that's fucking locked, tight, consistent, right? You got to have the same process per person. Why? Because a number of different things. It's going to lead to scale. You actually want a fucking life as a coach, right? And you're going to create trust in your clients because you are consistent when you give messages, what they look like, etc. And that creates a system of consistency, right? Now, how does CCP blend to that? Which I think might be an area of discussion that's a little argumentative, because CCP principles are based upon in-person relationship principles, not online, but the mechanics of CCP in principle can lend to better relationships over here in an online setting, if I'm making sense of that.
Totally. And I think that's where it's like it does cross over so well, because what you guys are teaching people from an in-person setting, like, yeah, there really isn't. It's not like it's a stretch. It's not like the thing doesn't work, right? When you're building a remote, and building that remote relationship is a little bit of a different game, but you still need to have some interpersonal skills coming into it. Yes. What does it mean to build a remote relationship with someone and build a successful relationship, especially distance, where you're working with such a hyper-focused goal set thing?
Yeah, well, I would ask the coach to define what a relationship is. And when you go there, I'll just philosophically talk about autonomy, and then I may not answer your question, but at least coaches will be like, oh, interesting, I never thought about that. You want to say, like, how long are you going to be doing this? Right? No one wants to talk about that in the current gig economy, right? I'm a little bit of an old man purist on this concept. If you want this as a side hustle, get the fuck out of our coaching profession. It's exhaustingly hard for us to lean up against people like you. I'm being completely fucking honest. If it drops down people that sign up True Coach, bill me. I fucking apologize to all you guys based upon that. But you're making coaching a lot fucking harder because your intentions are not correct. So define what you consider a job and a life as a coach, and then ask the question, why will clients leave you? And then when you think about that, you can say, well, what kind of relationship do I want to develop that allows people to be in front of me and I can teach them and they can learn? There's the fair trade agreement, right? I teach, you learn, cash in between, right? And they get successful in what? In autonomy, right? Our overarching philosophical goal as coaches to develop the highest relationships should be based upon creating client autonomy. You want to be teaching these people to fish for themselves next year, 15 years, whatever, right? So that's our overarching goal in defining what the relationship is, right? And do you see, if I start with those intentions and someone's like, oh, how fast will this be until I, get this pull-up? You got to reel them back, like, just a second now, just a second. We talked about, right? We talked about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? In terms of relationship expectations, what our goals are. And then they're like, yeah, it's not about the pull-up. No, it's fucking not about the pull-up, right? We've defined our relationship that whenever I feel like you're about to let this thing go and be on your own and navigate this fucker easily as possible, I am totally okay with that, because I'm ready to move on to help some other people. But see what I just did there? I defined the relationship in the online setting, right? I defined the relationship. Now, to some listening, that may be like just too much to kind of, it's like, getting clients, what do I charge? Da, da, da. You're asking the wrong questions. Start with the overarching intentions of what a relationship means and what a successful relationship means. And then you work backwards to build your business, right? If you start with like, what should I charge? What is True Coach? How do I write templated designs? How do I fix this thing that everyone needs to go online? If you're asking those questions, it's all good and we're here to support you, but you will not have a successful long-term business and successful relationships in the online market. Fact.
100%. And guys, I preface when James and I were talking before we started is I really appreciate his opinion, and I know he's a professional and he's going to keep it in an honest way. But like, we're in the business of helping coaches succeed, and this industry sees so many people come into it that care so much about helping other people get better that they're willing to work, drive Uber, work at a restaurant, do 10 things so they could be a personal trainer and help people. And it's not fair when it becomes a race to the bottom because a bunch of people just are doing it. Like, I literally had a kid the other day, James, tell me, he's like, I don't have any certifications. I just work with old people. And I'm like, oh God, it took everything inside of me not to punch him in the throat. Because it's like, dude, I've been in this over 10 years now and taken 30 certifications. Like, I give a shit. And I give a shit about coaches who work with people because there's someone over here that cares so much about helping that person. You're just in that spot. Right. So yeah, while it is hard, it is maybe it might rub you a little, but maybe because you were on the fence, right? I want to challenge people to say, hey, if you got into this game because you truly want to help people develop better relationships with their fitness and health, then you have to stop and ask yourself and say, hey, what skills am I lacking right now that I need to develop so I can do that job?
Yeah, but I can understand. Yeah, I can understand though, because people are like, but I want that shit now. Right? Like, I don't want the woo-woo psychosocial bullshit, right? That's what I know you're hearing that, people. I know you're hearing that, but this is the truth. You will die in business in 6 months. That's the truth. So if you don't have intentions that are based upon you doing this forever, don't even start. Like, don't ask me questions, right? I need to know that your intentions are good and you're asking the right. It still doesn't mean we're not going to help you with marketing or skills or how to make money to survive in these times. No. That's not the case, right? I'm just saying, take a fucking couple of seconds to say, what are my real intentions here? What are my real intentions? And if we define success, which is arguable, Sam, so I ask you to challenge me on that. I define success as a coach who can put braces on their children's mouth. Right? That's one area that's an example, a layman's terms example of what success is. And you know what it takes to get there? It takes a life, right? It takes a life. Like, you need to have time to live and experience things, right? You need to be able to reproduce, which is health. You need to save fucking money, right? You need to have a future of what you're going to do for that child and their kids, etc., right? So how do you get there? It takes time and experience and good business systems and the right intentions. So start there by saying, what do I want this to look like? And think big. If you're 22, you may not even understand what I'm saying, but ask the hard questions like, what do I want to be doing when I'm 35 in this profession? Excellent. That's a great place to start. Because you know what? You're going to now start surrounding people around you, technical shit in your head. That's going to allow you to build this for the long run, right? So it can make itself work. Right? And that's what I'm talking about in terms of intentions on the back end of your point, how people could be thinking, I just need to fix this shit now. Right? And I know this may not be timely for it because people are like, just fucking get on with it, dude. Tell me how I can get clients so I can survive this thing. And I'm just saying, good luck with that. Like, I really do mean it. I care about people, but it's going to be a disdain on the coaching industry if you're doing it incorrectly now for the wrong intentions.
100%. And I've said this before, guys. It's why when I teach about marketing, I teach using the story arc and talking about like, hey, do you know intrinsically what shit you've been through in life that you know how to help other people? Why do I teach that? Because, like James mentioned my energy earlier, because people aren't me. I will walk into a room of 1,000 people and say, hey guys, let's see how fast I can be the center of attention. right? Like, that's my personality. So like, yeah, I can't ask you to be that person. Oh my gosh. Like, I know James is sitting here going, God, if I had to spend weeks on end with Sam, I would go nuts, right? Like, there just is not enough down regulation time. And because we just run at frequencies. And I'm like, I'm just, so I want to give you guys a tool. I can't sit and say, hey, you got to go get better at coaching and then not give you a tool to do so. And this game of like, oh, if you believe it, you can do it. Or just because you have big biceps or know how to lift a barbell means you're going to go be a successful coach. That's not the game. Because the game is you are helping that person develop a better relationship. Sure, it came from the deadlift. It might have come from CrossFit. It might have come through a squat. It might have come from a kettlebell swing or a snatch or whatever that, I don't give a shit what it is. It's about you overcoming the challenge that you came into it with that presented resistance, and that person now is like, oh, wow, I'm no longer troubled by that thing that's been locking me down, right? That's what you as a coach are doing. That's what we define a coach as, and fitness is the way that we choose to do it.
Yeah, I see coaches as outstanding community members, role models, right? I use those words for coaching, right? And coaching today it's unfortunately it's rape and pillage, as to how to define a coach. It honestly is. It's reality, right? But that I'm not being pessimistic in that. I'm being a realist. Like, you need to know how to criticize bad ideas and lean up against what, right? And what you want to lean up against and criticize is the short, fast upgrade of a coaching value, right? But these times today, anyone can charge whatever they want. There's no regulation. There's no definition of a coach. There's sure as shit no definition of an online coach, which I hope over time OPEX and True Coach can work together in that better definition. And we got a big challenge in front of us, but I hope over time people can value your last point on coach. You're like, what is the value of a coach, right? And if you're a coach listening to this, that's your decision. That's your decision to make. Like, what do you want to have reflected out so people can see the value that's inside of you? And as woo-woo as it sounds, I'm 25 years in, I can tell you it will come back to help you, right? We always hear about these people like, oh, I just got to believe and it'll happen. And we're like, oh, I'm not really sure. I'm telling you, yes, there is something to say about that, where the intentions are good and you really show value, it will come back to you. It will. But if your intentions deep down is shit you're not talking to anyone about, right, are not well-intentioned based upon the value of your improvement as a coach, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And that's okay. It's an assessment process, right? If it's okay, if it weeds people out, that's okay. And we still love you. It's just, don't be a coach.
Yep. And we want to see everybody who's ready to succeed. And we will be here to be the resource that will help you. And we put out, I know the OPEX team and James himself and True Coach and our team, we do everything we can to put as many resources out there to help people get better. I know James just got off a webinar before he decided to jump on a call with me that's helping people understand remote coaching and doing it as a free resource to help people get better. So we're doing it. But at the same time, like, you can't sit here and ask like, oh, no one's helping me with marketing. And then like, did you see the 19 webinars that went up between the two companies in the last, 4 days, right? Like, it's there. So you have to want to get better. So with that being said, there's a lot, like, you guys got big dogs, have a staff of just, type A great coaches, people who are just getting it done. And the community of people who come through OPEX are a specific type of person that really embody this, because that's what you've been embodying. But there's a lot of coaches out there right now who just, their business got flipped on its head. They just got flipped on their head. And while we are asking them to ask some bigger questions about their business, and maybe being a little woo-woo for them because we've been in it long enough, but let's look at from, this coach is like, oh, I had 5 online or 5 in-person clients, and maybe I was trying to get into online, and this is like, I do really care about this industry. I'm listening to you two and saying, no, I'm going to fight. I'm going to get better. What questions does that coach start asking? Where does he start? Because he's not going to try to come out of this with money coming out of it today, but like, no, I'm going to sharpen my sword. What should I be doing right now?
To be short, and then we could play with it a bit. You got to survive, because if you're well-intentioned, I need you to survive the next 2 months or 3 months. So, and that's your responsibility. That's your responsibility, right? So you need to survive this. You can take that, whatever it means. I fucking don't care. You need to survive this, right? Secondarily, take a number of deep breaths throughout this period of time for 2 months or 3 months and ask the really hard questions around what I previously just spoke about. Intentions in coaching. What are you really doing it for? How is it delivering client autonomy over time? Is it leading you to that success in life as a trade and a job that you can go down swinging with, that you're proud about, right? That people talk about how effective you helped people in your community with fitness. So I think, those two angles: survive this fucking thing, which get on webinars, look at the government regulations, look at the CARE Act, ask questions about investment, cold call people for acquisition, have conversation, get out into the fucking chaos to see if you can lend a hand or help people that are nearby you. You have to survive through this and take a lot of breaths throughout. Because on the other end, I would certainly hope, even if there's 10 or 30 or 3,000 people listening to this message, at the end of the 2 months, we need to, I hope that we will, we need to fundamentally shift the concept of exercise intentions and what health really means to people, right? Let's not, and I don't want to move it over there to talk about it being a moral concept of exercise, but we should be leaning up against that story right now. Why are we really flipped out around not getting a True Coach program on time? What really fucking matters right now? There's people dying around us, right? So take a number of breaths to ask what really matters now. And hopefully, I'm hoping that it'll change intentions on behalf of you as a coach and the fitness market. So that's what I would ask that person to do. I hope you heard me clear. Listen, you got to fucking do DoorDash or what, you got to survive. You got to survive, right? So, and do whatever you can in that position. And of course, there's a lot of case studies, Sam, that I work with people personally day to day that are in that situation, multiple different situations, let's say. And it's all an N equals one. Some people, they had to protect all their assets and change their business so they can survive for 2 months. Some people had to do a shotgun approach and be like, holy fuck, this whole thing is up. I need to go over here and be agile and transition and survive there. Yep. Some people need to do shot down, rely on the government, and still do some work in another area just to put food on their kids' table. So but all those stories, survival. Just survive the period of time, right? Survive the period of time. And I guess the third point that I would ask people to consider, which is you're going to get when you take a lot of those deep breaths, really make sure that the decisions you're making right now are still with good intentions. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those are the people that are oh, I think I need to be online, right? And it's okay, that's all good. And if you think you need to be online, that's great, just because it's happening right now. But don't do piling on of work is going to change and online is the thing. And, the things will go back to normalcy in 3 months. And you want to ask the question, where will you be then? If you don't have all the things that I talked about in business system setup and intention to get you to that point.
Yeah. A point, excuse me, you brought up, and you've said it 3 times now, and you mentioned this term around client autonomy.
Yeah.
And I know for a young trainer, they're afraid of giving their clients too much information, thinking they're going to learn everything and just go do it themselves now. Right? Yeah, I know. You know where I'm going exactly with this. What is client autonomy, and what does that mean to empower someone with information to be successful without you? And why is that good for our business?
Yeah. Well, I humor myself to think about this concept of what were people doing for fitness in 1825? Right? It's there's no such thing as a fitness trainer, right? And guess what? People actually got through this thing, through life. No, but honestly, we need to ask that question, right? Fitness prescription, in large part, humorously, is fucking diversion and folly.
Yeah.
Think, now I start to get a little bit more serious on it.
Yep.
Think really hard about that. We are actually socially constructing a system of movement that people need to rely on us to tell them what to do for movement. Okay, and I'll stop being a pessimist based upon the concept of it. But I need to speak about that because I know where things are today. I'm aware of that, right? We're formulating this architecture of social following, right? To say, you got to move, and if you don't move, oh, why am I moving? don't ask that question, like that's my shit. I'm only, you just need to move. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I love to put humorous tone on it because it's crazy.
Totally.
Okay. Anyways, so that allows you to really formulate this idea of like, what does it mean to be in that person's shoes after a number of years of the relationship, right? So this is how I describe it. You want to show up and see that person in 8 years somewhere, right, at a party, right? And they take a second to come over to you. And I've had this before, so I feel a little emotional based on that conversation too. And they'll say things like, I learned things during our time together. I know we're not together now due to this, this, and this, but I'm teaching my kids about the importance of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating broccoli twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the definition of the story of what autonomy is, right? They don't need guidance or a dependent relationship from another source to intrinsically motivate them to move, right? Why? Because you were embedding as a coach every opportunity you could for a person to learn and download this shit so that over time, just want to visualize it, they're just out there fucking navigating. And they don't need they know why coconut oil is fucking going to kill people 1 month and then it's healthy another month, right? They know why eggs, you know what I mean? They're telling their people in their community, right? No, they meet someone on the street and they're like, oh, you look so fit. Well, what's it? He goes, oh, I eat eggs for breakfast. They're like, I thought eggs are going to kill you. And that person is just a human. They're an engineer. And they go, you know what? Let me tell you a little bit about that. Do you see that? How did they do that? You taught them that so that they can teach others. That's the definition of autonomy. So at this point, do they need you to say, hey, knee valgus? Fuck no, they don't. And if they do, that's your fault as a coach. Because you're not making that client aware that you should be learning these things every fucking workout. So we say things like, be present. What did you learn about that? How are you going to learn from that session that's going to lead to another session, right? What are the things we implemented, what we call basic lifestyle guidelines, that you learned last week that you're now, I use the terminology downloading because people understand that in the new age, right? What have you downloaded that's stuck in your bits and pieces now? They're like, oh, I have never forgot what it's like to have a good shit after a good night's sleep, right? I'm like, excellent, because I just saved you fucking 15 years of your life. Because you downloaded something that you will never forget. So I've devised a concept of I guess an esoteric concept of autonomy. It should get to the point where people can fucking navigate this thing on their own. So if it makes you scared, right? If it makes you scared, that's realistic. And we honor that, right? Because you're afraid, oh my God, they're going to leave me. Yeah. So you can fucking help someone else. That's what it's going to get to. And look at me, I learned shit this morning about burpees under fatigue with an assault bike. And I'm like 25 years deep and almost 10,000 sessions into this motherfucker, right? So I'm still learning shit. So who the fuck are you to think that you're not going to be teaching people to get autonomy and you being scared of that? That's effed up. Now I know that the system, right? The market and the system doesn't allow a client to think like that. But so fucking be it. Who cares, right? You be the change. Change the concept of what a relationship is in fitness, right? If you're like, oh, clients don't want to do that, that's your fucking problem. You're giving that off because you don't believe in it, right? So if someone's like, oh, James, you speak about the long term, but no one wants to pay a 5-year contract for an exercise program. You know what? That's your fucking problem because you haven't proved the value of what's inside your relationship. You see what I'm saying? Like, don't come at me with those bullshit questions on reality, what the market perceives. Be strong enough to move past that, right? And that all starts with the belief on what you really believe in autonomy. And that may take some people months and months to get to, but it will eventually, if you want to sound woo, here's a statement for it. That intentional belief on thousands of coaches will fundamentally shift the concept of fitness. It will shift it. It'll weed out all the bullshit and it'll pull in everyone that's in this for the right reasons and are making things happen to people. We moved along a huge emotional continuum there from pessimism to optimism, what it could be like. So,
I mean, but here's the thing, like, I love it. And I love that you just are real with it, because at the end of the day, like, nothing I hate more than someone who just tells you what you think they want, what they think you want to hear. And then like, you just go about your day and like, you never got anything out of it. Like, you didn't grow, right? Like, I would much rather you not like me because I told you something that's going to help you than you like me and I gave you something that didn't help you, right? That's my personal belief system. Like, I'm just not in a spot I can handhold you over that fence. But like, it's not me. I'm not doing my due diligence if I don't give you what I'm able to at least help you with at this point in time. And if that fires you up to say no and you fight back against me, good.
Yep.
I want you to fight back against me. I want you to fight for what you want.
That's a relationship.
Yes.
Welcome to relationships. Like, seriously, I mean, you know, welcome to relationships. If you're a younger coach, you're like, I don't have the skills. I can't sniff that stuff.
Yep.
CCP can help you, right? I'll give you the principles, and then I say, just fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right? I will download all the good shit in your head, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll be using my words. It doesn't matter, right? But my words are principle based. I'm standing on the shoulder of giants of 50 years gone by, right? Mm-hmm. So my shit, it works, but it's not my shit. But my language and those principles will help you. So if you're like, I don't know how to deal with that situation, what are the principles, right? Mm-hmm. So you always go back to CCP principles. Like in a consulting example, people be like, I don't know how to deal with those behaviors.
Yeah.
Well, what did I teach you based upon the principles? Noticing, explaining, prescribing, acting, setting up goals. These are priorities. This is the continuum. Then they're like, oh yeah, I do know the answer to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that you don't always need that deep amount of 15 years of experience to get you to a point where you're going to have value for a coach, right?
Totally.
You will be able to validate all those things long term with all your experiences. Like you and I with 30 certs, we did it not to like come out and be like, now this is the answer. Right. No, we come out and go, now that validates a number of fundamental truths that I believe in. You see that? We're just like scaffolding all these things just to have a better language. When someone says, what should I eat? We go, broccoli, right? But there's like 30 courses behind that answer.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't need to like land base them with 30 different views. I was like, for you, it's broccoli. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot in that one answer. And so you can see the new coach can say that right out and not know why they said it. Mm-hmm. See that? And the coach 20 years in has the same prescription, but there's depth inside of that. Mm-hmm. And the values are different in those two coaches, but the prescription is the same. For those who are scared that they're like, I don't know enough and I'm incompetent, and you're not incompetent, right? You just don't have the principles in place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's, I love it. I think that being able to have had a career where I've been able to learn from so many amazing people has allowed me to get to this point in my career. And I naturally have some skill sets that lent me to be successful in the personal training world, like natural skill sets. And so, but, you know, I want people who don't necessarily like have that, or they think that like, well, I don't have those skills, or I'm not as well read as James or whatever to be successful. But I think a lot of people come into this, they just get into fitness because they are fit or they like it. Mm-hmm. And then they didn't know that there were people out there offering a system of thought to help them frame the way they can go into this, because they're like, we're seeing it in the group, James. We've just talked about it, to where people literally don't even know where to start with working with someone. And I'm in a number of groups to where I see like the amount of I see it once a week. I just got my first client. What do I do? Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, what? Right. So what is CCP and what is that framework, and how does that help coaches, and what's that going to help coaches who aren't familiar with you or the CCP system?
Yeah. So we basically teach you all the principles of fitness delivery. We work on you as a person first. So we have to build you up as a person, as a human, and as skills inside of behavior and exercise and nutrition. So we do that first. Then we teach you the system so you can work with a client. And that's it. So like we download all that shit, right? And then you get past that, and then we go, and now this is how you put it into practice. Yeah. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like that. It's not like, oh, you can do that, and oh, that depends, and oh, you can do that. No, it's like, this is how you do it. Advertising, marketing, sales consult, initial consults, body move work, initial design, ongoing relationship, autonomy, Next. It's a step-by-step process. And a coach inside of that has all these principles of CCP downloaded, right? And then they can go off and do other courses. They can go off and do other education. That just validates all the principles that I teach them. So that's what our system does. It's a coaching education method, right? It's a method so that people, when they finish it, they should be able to go out, and all of our data is showing that's capable. They should be able to go out on the first day, press play, make it happen. No questions. How do I start with a client? Answered. What's my goal for a client long-term? Answered. How do I assess people that have, one broken leg? Answered. I have tight right shoulder? Answered. You have all those answers because you know the principles.
And guys, like I said, and I don't mention that I've taken a bunch of certs to show off that I've taken a lot of certs, because like I wouldn't lead with that even with a client.
Likewise.
But like for me, yeah, for sure. But like I want to say this because guys, CCP is a business in a box, right? It literally is a great way for you to show up and go from like, okay, this is a thing I love to do. And it gives you a step-by-step, like how to do it, right? Like he's saying, like, yeah, you're going to not just learn about like, okay, exercise prescription and programming and energy systems. Like you're going to learn that, but you're also going to be challenged to learn how to like, hey, have a conversation with someone and dig into them a little bit to get the information you need to deliver the experience that matches the price and the value you need to make the money you need to live to make this a career, not a side hustle, not a job. And so it's so great to go through this immersive experience to where like, you're not just learning one piece of the system, you're learning everything and how it works together, and you don't have to be confused. You literally can like get your bearings. And like James said, he said, go take other education systems. He wasn't saying like other things aren't valuable, but this is a great place to start for you, and or do everything, but to be able to like, okay, I get how it all works together. Like get people in the door making money, get your reps in, start helping people, and do it to where you don't have to sit and wonder, oh, what am I supposed to do here? You're just executing a system and you're continually getting better at it. And your message is going to sound better and better to where, you consistently feel yourself, doing the next step and teaching more people and teaching the next set of coaches, et cetera. So, yeah, guys, I can't say enough good things about CCP. I thought it was such a great experience.
I'm not tooting our horn either, but there's no other education system out there that does that.
Yeah.
Like, if you do know it, send it to me. Right. And I'll show you one that's missing business practice. Right. Send me another one. I'll show you they don't have any behavioral aspects or psychosocial stuff inside for relationships. Send me another one that generally has a robust assessment and training delivery system, but they're missing those other parts.
Yeah.
You can send me a whole system that has nutrition overlapping everything. What are they missing? Fantastic program design and real relationship building. You know what I'm saying? That there isn't a system out there that does that. I'm not, and I know I'm 10 years deep in 4 versions into this, and I did it for the reason of answering this fundamental question. If I wanted a coach to go out there and to teach people to be autonomous forever, what skills do they need?
Yeah.
They need all those things that I just previously spoke to you about, right? And there's no other system that delivers it. Some of our biggest challenges are language, right? We'd like to grow globally, and language is a big determining factor for that. So if anyone's interested in getting on board to kind of push the message, then this is kind of an indirect shout out to the universe to make that happen and help us with that. Because we do need soldiers on the ground that are in those areas that want to put time and effort into developing the education where language is the barrier to transition over, right? Because when you're inside of a digital education system, it's a shit show to create that transition over to that area. But there's nowhere else out there to get that for you. I fundamentally want CCP to be the university for a professional fitness coach over time. I want people to not look at, for whatever reason, a 8-year plan of $120,000, seemingly thinking they're going to come out and be a fitness coach, right? No, that's a specialized kinesiology student. There's a place for that person in the world, but it's not in fitness. They're way overqualified in one technical area of understanding the body, not the spirit and the mind. And we have the opportunity to create economy with these technical abilities that is not else out there. So I hope in the future we'll be that one-stop hub, someone who's 19 or 20 who took a year off of school after they finished high school, and now they're like, I fucking love fitness, man. I fucking love it. I want to teach other people about it. We'll be like this, woohoo, one-stop shop. Get in, and they get out the other side, and they're off and running so that they can affect thousands of people for the rest of their life and go to bed at night and fall off a mountain when they're 85 and die and really have a cool thing on their headstone about their effects they had on people through fitness.
I love it. One thing you mentioned quickly, and I'm not sure that people are going to hear it as quick, but is this is version 4. Right. And, my time at On It, we built this courses at the On Education System. So I've seen what version 1 versus version 4, even of an in-person seminar. Yeah. Version 1 is going to be like, yeah, that was 17 hours more content than we really needed for that particular seminar. How do we chunk that down? Because it was someone like you that's like, here's everything. Yeah. How is version 4 different from version 1?
It's refined. It's more precise in language, and it's more directed towards ensuring that coaches finish and can start right away.
I love it. Yeah. And I love that, what I want you guys to hear from that is, yeah, he's been in 25 years. He's developed a coaching education system, but just because it's up there and the principles are there doesn't mean he's not consistently refining it and finding a way to make sure it's the best experience possible. And they've got a team to do it. So
yeah, Carl and I just changed some things on the fueling aspect the other day. Like there's always upgrades to it, but as you know, in online education, that's very easily done, but we're trying to stay on top of all that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. James, thank you so much for sitting down with us and helping us out. I really just want to give the coaches an understanding of the history of remote coaching, where it's at right now, what they need to know going forward, and what we really need to be prepared to handle if we want to come out of this as a remote coach with a successful business. Yeah. Because that's who we're really targeting. Yep. Is the person that wants to do this. So thank you so much for sharing your time, and always a pleasure to get and sit and learn from you. Thank you.
Yeah.